Hi, my name is Mr. Chow, and welcome to Chow Time. I'm back with another Orient. This one is the Ray 2. It's pretty popular amongst those looking for a value diver that is a little bit unique and not just an homage of something else. And it's also gaining popularity in the modding crowd. Big thanks to my dad who lent me this watch. It's really helpful for the channel to have someone who can support the channel in that kind of way. So thanks for lending this to me. I appreciate it. The way that this watch review channel works is that I compare watches to a set rubric objectively. I score the watches and then I apply a value multiplier to get a total score and a value score. I then give a completely subjective review that talks a little bit more about how I see watches and how I've been growing as a watch collector. Before we get scoring the watch though, let's take a second just to understand the context that I'll be looking at this watch in. This is a diver, a value diver, and so is kind of a mix of a sports tool watch for those looking to spend as little money as possible. So let's get into it. We'll start with the function, feel, and visual appeal of the case and bracelet. The watch has a stainless steel case with a couple of different finishes. As you can see, this example has been through some heavy use. The case is brushed along the top and polished along the side. The quality of the finish is not quite on par with Seiko, but hangs in there with watches of this price range easily. The first disappointment I have with the watch comes here in the bezel. It's a little tight to turn and the textured portion is too thin to grip. The crystal is a mineral crystal and is completely flat. As you can see, this watch has been through some use, and the mineral crystal has a variety of chips and scrapes, showing the inferior scratch resistance compared to sapphire. However, it is possible that if this was sapphire, that it would have already shattered during the DIY construction projects it's seen. The crown guard protects a smallish screw-down crown that I wish had more texturing to help operate. It has an Orient logo etched on. Both of these design decisions hurt the usability score. However, the case shapes and soft curves do make the watch a joy on the wrist. Flipping the watch over, there is a tapered 22mm bracelet that terminates into a fold-over clasp with push-button retainers. These parts are all stamped. From this angle, you can see the case back, which has a pair of dolphins etched along with some of the technical specifications. There don't seem to be many quality control issues, which is always nice to see when researching a very cheap value watch. 6 out of 10 for form, 5 out of 10 for function. Let's move on to the dial. It has a combination of a subtle sunburst finish, a subtle bit of sandblast, and a subtle bit of shine. The Orient logo is glossy and appears to be embossed. It could be applied, but it's not entirely clear when viewed through the loop. The detail in this tiny logo is impressive. The print is very well executed, and the date window has the most complexity and visual pop of anything on the dial. The indices are applied, but are very flat looking. The hands are well made and high polished. The lume filled within the indices are evenly applied, but not very bright. However, it can still be seen at 3 in the morning. And the second hand has a red tip painted. Overall, the design of the dial is clean and elegant, but also takes no risks. 7 out of 10 for form, 8 out of 10 for function. Let's move on to the movement inside. The movement in this watch is the Orient caliber F6522. It has a day and date complication, beats at 21,600 beats per hour, and has a 40-hour power reserve. It is said to have a rating of plus 25 to minus 25 seconds per day, and my watch fluctuates around the higher end of that scale, gaining about a minute in the last 5 days. There's honestly not to say about this movement. It seems reliable enough, and there are a few complaints about it on the forum. 4 points out of 10 for form, 4.5 out of 10 for function. bringing us to a total score of 34.5 points out of 60 so far. Let's move on to the most objective category, the heritage, brand, prestige, and history. Orient started producing watches in 1950 and has done little to note since then. However, they've stayed in business long enough to be purchased by Epson, which is also owned by Seiko. I mentioned this in the last review. It's a little bit in the shadow of Seiko and is trying to make its own mark. In some corners of the watch enthusiast world, Orient is the spiritual successor to Seiko in that they make affordable and well-built watches with no frills but adequate features. For that small, quiet, but hardcore fan base, Orient earns a 4 out of 10 for brand heritage and prestige, bringing the total score to 38.5. The Orient Ray 2 is no longer in production, being replaced by the Komatsu. They can still be found new, as of the filming of this video, for $139, which brings the value multiplier to a relatively high 1.877. When the value multiplier is applied, the value score is 72.265. That places the watch near the bottom in 26th place overall, but edging out its cousin, the Orient Triton, for 5th place in value. So that brings me to my personal opinion on the watch. The reason I have the overall score and the value score is because those things are both really important to me. I really enjoy a watch that is doing its best to pull all the stops and make just the best watch possible. But I also, really appreciate when a watch is trying to do as much as it can with as little money as possible. So I do appreciate this watch a lot on that front. I don't know if you can hear this bracelet is quite jingly. The touch points though, that's what really gets to me here. The bezel, it's frustrating how difficult it is to turn. And in fact, that rattle is starting to annoy me now. I can't get my mind off of it. The crown is also a little bit too difficult to open and close. I know these things are not important when you're wearing a watch every day, but for me, I am always changing watches, and for a watch to be difficult to put on and set is just a major turnoff. On the positive though, the watch is very legible. I almost exclusively buy watches with screw down crowns because water resistance is important to me. Even though I know some watches have like 50 or 100 meters of water resistance and have just a push down crown, I can't get over the fear of something happening when I'm washing my hands, or if I just for some reason submerge my hand in some water. And even though the dial is legible, the lume just is a little bit lacking. And I know it is such a cheap watch that really a lot of these complaints don't mean much, but for me, I think I would just rather pay a little bit more to get a little bit more. So, do you agree with the scoring of the watch or the rubric in general? Is there anything that you'd like to see me review? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for making it to the end. Thanks. Bye.